All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. And Shalom to you brothers pushing this truth and sincerity. I'm Karat Zahba, back on another show. In this show, I'm going to be focusing on the topic of eating foods sacrificed unto idols. All right? Because you have many that believe that the letters of Paul are contradicting. And one topic that people like to go to is the food sacrificed unto idols. All right? And you have guys calling themselves Israelites that believe that Paul's letters are contradicting. You have Israelite groups like the Sakari and the Genesis camps. They would touch on the topic of Paul speaking about eating food sacrificed unto idols and how he's contradicting. And they would try to say in one part of the scriptures, he said that it's okay to eat meat sacrificed to idols. But in another part of the scriptures, he said that it's not okay. But what we're going to do today is go into these scriptures and get the understanding that you can eat meat sacrificed unto idols. All right? Because the message that Paul was conveying, Paul was saying that, look, it is okay to eat meat sacrificed unto idols. Why? Because idols are not real gods. They're false gods. They can't bless you. They can't bless your food. None of that. They're just idols. There's only one God, which is the Most High, and He is the one who has control over everything, even the foods. All right, the Most High is the one who created the animals that we, eat as foods. So when we eat these foods, we're not eating it unto the reverence of the idol, but we're eating it into the reverence of the Most High. Now, where the sin comes in is if you're eating food sacrificed unto idols in recognition of the idol. All right? If you're eating that food and you're recognizing that idol as a real God, that's where the sin comes in. Also, the sin comes in when you're eating food sacrificed unto idols in front of someone who does not have the level of understanding that you have. All right, somebody who's weaker in the faith, somebody who might see you eat the food and they think that you're eating it in honor of the idol, and you destroy that person's faith by doing so in front of him. So that's where the sin also comes in upon you also. Okay? So what we're going to do is go through the scriptures and get the full understanding of, everything I just said. So we're going to go to 1 Corinthians chapter 8, and I'm going to start from 1. And it reads, "Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge." Right, so, dealing with the church of Corinth, you had believers that understood that it was okay to eat meats sacrificed unto idols. But then you had believers that didn't have that understanding. You had believers that thought that if you would eat food sacrificed unto idols, that it was sin. Okay? So I read it again. "Now as touching things offered unto idols, we know that we all have knowledge." So Paul had the knowledge that it's okay to eat the food, and you had other men that had the knowledge that it was okay to eat the food. All right? Salakia. Now it says, we know that we all have knowledge. And it says, knowledge puffeth up. Yeah, but knowledge puffeth up. When you have the knowledge, when you have the knowledge of something, it could cause you to be proud and arrogant. Okay, so in this case, you had the men who had the knowledge that it was okay, but they was being proud and arrogant towards the ones of little understanding, the ones who did not understand that it was okay. All right. An example of a good example is let's say somebody don't let's say somebody today don't understand that it's okay to eat the food. All right. And you're pretty much being proud and arrogant towards that person. You like, hey, look, brother, just eat the damn food. You know, idols is not real. All right, stop being simple. Stop being simple minded. Okay, so you're puffed up by your knowledge on that situation. So it says knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. Yeah, but charity edifieth. Okay. So charity, showing brotherly love, and that's the true edification. So pretty much, if you have the knowledge of something and that somebody don't have the knowledge of, you gotta sacrifice what you know for the sake of that brother. Sacrifice what you know and deal with him according to his little understanding. All right. You have to deal with that person according to his little understanding, and sacrifice what you know and deal with that brother on his level of understanding. All right. So knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. Verse 2. And if any man think that he knoweth anything, he knoweth nothing, yet as he ought to know. Yeah, see, if any man think that he knoweth anything, yeah, you have the knowledge and understanding that it's okay to eat meats, but really you know of nothing because you don't know how to edify the weaker brother that don't know. Instead of being proud and arrogant towards him, you have to sacrifice what you think you know and deal with somebody on a lower level according to his level. Okay? It says, but if any man love God, the same is known of him. Yeah, because this is all about, edifying the church and being charitable towards one another instead of exalting your knowledge over someone else. Now it says, verse 4, as concerning therefore the eating of those things that are offered and sacrificed unto idols, we know that an idol is nothing in the world, and that there is none other God but one. Right. So we have the understanding that, look, there's only one God, and idols are nothing. Okay. They can't move. They can't speak. They can't bless. They can't do none of these things. And we know that there's only one true God, the Most High. Verse 5. For though there be that are called gods, whether in heaven or in earth, as there be gods many and lords many. Right. So, yeah, many false idols that's made after the likeness of things in the heaven and images of things upon the earth. All right. Animals, beasts, fish. You got the stars, moon, sun. So you got all kind of idols out here. Verse 6. But to us there is but one God, the Father, of whom are all things, and we in him, and one Lord Yahushua Mashiach, by whom are all things, and we by him. Right, so there's only one power, the Most High and his Son. Okay, and the Most High created everything through his Son Yahushua. Verse 7, howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge. Yeah, but not every man have that understanding that there's only one God and one Lord, one Son, Yahushua. Okay? For some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered unto an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. Right, so when it comes to meat sacrifices to idols, someone with little understanding that do not have the knowledge of, look, there's only one God and one Son. All right. There's no other power. Now, during this time of the Corinthians, you had men with that, who had weak understanding like that. So when idols came up, or foods was offered unto them that sacrificed to idols, they thought in their mind that, look, if we eat this food, we eating it in honor of these false gods. So let's read it again, verse 7. Howbeit there is not in every man that knowledge, for some with conscience of the idol unto this hour eat it as a thing offered to an idol, and their conscience being weak is defiled. Right. So verse 8. But meat commendeth us not to God. Yeah, but meat commendeth us not to God. So the eating of meats, that's what's not going to bring you closer to the Most High. All right. For neither if we eat are we the better, neither if we eat, Salaki says, for neither if we eat are we the better, neither if we eat not are we the worse. Yeah, so if you eat the food that is sacrificed to idols, that doesn't make you better than the ones who don't, because you have a higher understanding on that topic than they do. Now it says, neither if we eat not are we the worse. Yeah, and if somebody don't have that understanding and don't want to eat the food because they believe that it's sin, that doesn't make then that don't mean look down upon that person. Okay, every man has their own preference. Verse 9, but take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. Right. So you got to take heed yourself what you do in front of somebody that has a weak conscience dealing with the topic of eating food sacrificed unto idols. All right. So let's read that again. It says, but take heed lest by any means this liberty of yours become a stumbling block to them that are weak. Right. So if somebody who's weak-minded in that on this topic, you don't want to just go and eat something that's sacrificed unto an idol in front of them. Okay. Because you can destroy that person's faith. Because that person can look at you as someone who only worship the Most High. But if they see you eating food sacrificed to an idol, they're going to think that you're being double-minded or that you're worshiping two gods. Okay? And it will look like a mixed message unto that person with a weak conscience. Verse 10. For if any man see thee, which has knowledge, sit at meat in the idol's temple, shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? Right. So let's say, for example, if you was invited to a gathering or whatever, a certain holiday, and you're just going there to eat food, okay? But if somebody of a weak conscience seeing you eat that food, in their minds, they're gonna be emboldened, okay? They're gonna be pretty much in their conscience, their mind, they're gonna be boosted to thinking that it's okay to eat foods in honor of the idol. All right, while you're just eating the food, not acknowledging the idol, you're acknowledging the Most High. Okay, you're eating the food and praying to the Most High, not into the idol. But that person of a weak conscience, now his courage is built up that, look, it's okay to eat food sacrificed to the idol in honor of the idol. He's going to believe that it's okay to worship that idol and eat the food. Okay, so it reads verse 10 again. It says, for if any man see thee which have knowledge sit at meat in the idol's temple, shall not his conscience Shall not the conscience of him which is weak be emboldened to eat those things which are offered to idols? Right. So so his confidence is going to be built up to look. It is okay to eat idol food in honor and worship this false god. Why? Because look, this brother who have the knowledge of the Most High, he's doing it. All right. So he's gonna be confused by the mixed message. Verse 11. And through thy knowledge shall the weak brother perish, for whom Christ came, or for whom Hamashiach died. All right. So so that's what it says. Salakia, read again. And through thy knowledge shall the weak brother perish. Yeah, because you have the understanding that is okay. Why? Because you're not worshiping the idol, but he sees you as you worshiping the idol, and now he's gonna perish through your knowledge of how you see things. All right. Verse 12. But when ye sin so against the brethren, and would their weak conscience ye sin against Hamashiach. So this is where the sin comes in, by destroying somebody else's mind by doing something in front of him that you shouldn't have done in front of him, by eating food sacrifice in front of somebody with a weak conscience. Why? Because you have the knowledge that is okay, but the other brother don't. All right. So what you did in front of him was not edifying. Yeah, you have the understanding, but your understanding did not edify the weak brother. And that's where the sin comes in. That's where you go off. Verse 13. Wherefore, if meat make my brother to offend, I will eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. Right. So Paul's saying, look, if this topic of the eating of meat sacrificed to idols offend his brother, he's not going to do it in front of him. Okay. Or he won't even eat nothing sacrificed to idols. Why? Because it's going to offend my brother. All right. So that's why you go back up to the first verse. Look, it says, knowledge puffeth up, but charity edifieth. All right. So you can't be puffed up in your own understanding. You can't be puffed up in your understanding on a higher level than someone else and offend him. All right. So you have to sacrifice what you know not to offend your brother. Sacrifice what you know to edify your brother. Okay. So I read it again. So wherefore, if meat maketh my brother to offend, I will not eat no flesh while the world standeth, lest I make my brother to offend. Right. So you don't want to send the mixed message. If you know that eating food sacrificing to idols in front of somebody of a weak faith can destroy that person's faith, then you don't eat it at all, or you don't eat it in front of them. Yes, it is okay to eat the meat that sacrifices to idols, because we worship the Most High and idols are nothing. But if somebody does not understand that, if somebody is going to take it as you're eating it in honor of the idol, then you don't eat it in front of them, or you just don't eat it at all. And it's very simple to understand. Okay. But, you have people that that's not, people that believe that Paul is contradicting himself. They just don't have the, spiritual foresight to see, to perceive what's being said. Okay. Now from there, we're going to go to chapter 10. Let's go to First Corinthians chapter 10. I'm going to start from 19. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 19. And it read, what say I then? That the idol is anything, or that which is offered in sacrifice to idols is anything? No, idol ain't nothing. They just rocks, wood, wood, stone, carved into an image. Verse 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils, and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and of the table of devils. Right, now you have I use Genesis. You have priest Hakah from the Genesis. He had tried to use this verse 20 and 21 to say that Paul contradicts himself. See, in chapter 8, he says okay, but here in this verse, he contradicts himself by saying, look, you're not supposed to eat meat sacrificed to idols. Now, what is this saying? Let's read it again and get understanding. It's 1 Corinthians 10 and 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. Yeah, guys that's in the Gentile state of mind, they sacrifice to actual idols, all right, and not the Most High. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partaker of the Lord's table and the table of devils. Right, so Paul is saying to the believers, you can't be a partaker of worshiping those idols, and you're not supposed to be worshiping the Most High and worshiping idols. All right, it's not saying that you can't eat the meat, but if you're eating the foods in recognition of devils, in recognition of idols, that's where you're going off. Okay, you're going off by eating foods in recognition of the idol. Now let's go to real quick, let's go to Revelations chapter 2, verse 20. Okay, because you have people that were guys that are trying to use this scripture to cut what Paul was saying. This Revelations 2 verse 20. That says, notwithstanding, Yahushua speaking, notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit fornication and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. Right, so that, like example, Hakah, the Genesis, they try to use this and say, see, this cuts Paul. Because here, Yahushua said that you can't eat meat sacrificed to idols. But Paul said you can. But no, that's not what it's saying, okay? This woman Jezebel, let's read it again. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication. Yeah, spiritual adultery. All right. She caused the church to commit spiritual adultery against the Most High. Now it says, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. Right. So it's not talking about the eating the food itself. She caused the church to go off by making a sacrifice unto false gods and having a feast and eating in honor of those false gods. Not just eating some random food that was sacrificed to the idol and they just eating it to eat. No, they were eating it in honor of the idol. All right? And this is what people don't understand. It's simple, but it's not simple to everybody. The scriptures say how the words of the Most High, they're plain unto the righteous, but they're a stumbling block unto the wicked. Okay? And just like today, we don't know what's whether we eat and, buy our food, whatever supermarkets, we don't know what's sacrificed to idols. But we just eat we buy the food and eat the food. We're not eating it in honor of any false gods. We pray over our food to Yahweh Yahweh Shah. All right. So let's go back to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 20. But I say that the things which the Gentiles sacrifice, they sacrifice to devils and not to God. And I would not that ye should have fellowship with devils. Yeah, you should not have fellowship with devils. Okay? Not worshiping idols. Ye cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of devils. Ye cannot be partakers of the Lord's table and a table of devils. Right. So you're not supposed to honor two gods. You're not supposed to serve the Most High, keep his high holy days, and then you're worshiping another god and having feasts in honor of other gods also. Okay? It's simple to understand. Do we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? Yeah, no. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. Yes, so all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. So yeah, it's not going off. You're not going off or committing sin when you're eating the food. All right. But all things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. But so you're not going off when you eat the food, but it might not be expedient or it might not be necessary to do so. And in the case of, eating it around somebody who don't have that understanding. All right. So that's why it says all things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. It says all things are lawful for me, but all things edify not. Right. Because it might not be edifying to do so, taking part in eating something sacrificed to an idol, if it's just going to destroy somebody's faith that you eat it around. It's going to further go into it. So it reads, let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth. See? Let no man seek his own, but every man another's wealth. So you don't want to think about yourself. All right? In the faith, when you're dealing with the brotherhood, you don't want to be selfish and think about, doing the things that you want to do. You have to be mindful of the things that you do around brothers in the faith that's not on the same level of understanding that you have. Okay? Because you could do something in front of them that's going to destroy their faith. All right? Whatsoever is sold in the shambles, that eat asks no questions for conscience sake. Yeah, so whatsoever sold in the shambles or the markets, that eat asking no questions for conscience sake. Yeah, even today. Because we all shop and buy our foods. We don't know what's sacrificed unto idols. All right? When you go to the supermarket, you don't know what Arab butcher was praying to Allah when he chopped the meat up. All right? Or whatever Chinese butcher, chopping the meat up in honor, praying to some Buddha. We don't know. Okay? But for your conscience sake, you ask no questions. Look, there's one God, there's only one power, the Most High, the Son of the Most High. When we buy our food and cook our meals, and who do we pray to? We pray to the Most High. We're not praying to any idol gods. So, verse 25, whatsoever is sold in the shambles, that eat asks no questions for conscience sake. For the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Yeah, so everything in the earth is all the Most High's. All right? No other idol god created anything in this earth. There's only one creator. If any of them that believe not bid you to a feast, and ye disposed to go, yeah, somebody, invite you to, a feast. I use a Christmas dinner, for example, in modern day. All right, modern day, let's say a Christmas dinner. All right, you disposed to go. All right, you're not going to worship Jesus Christ. You just going to get some food. You know, we all got families that's in the world that still celebrate holidays and things of that nature. You might go to just get a plate. Okay? You might just go to get a plate. While the family, they're into these holidays. You know, they really believe in Jesus Christ and Santa Claus and things like that. We don't believe in these things. We're just going to, get some food and that's it. If any of them that believe not bid you to a feast and ye be disposed to go, whatsoever is set before you, eat, asking no questions for conscience sake. Yeah, you just eat the food. Okay? You ain't gotta ask questions, what God this was sacrificed to, or what God this. Just eat the food, Pray to Yahweh Yahushua, eat the food. Now verse 28, but if any man say unto you, this is offered and sacrificed unto idols, eat not for his sake that shewed it. Yeah, so, but, if somebody come, they know what you into, or, you might have a believer around and they know that you worship the Most High, they trying to understand, and hey, this stuff is sacrificed to idols, things like that. You don't, for that person's sake, you don't eat the food, okay? Because then you don't want that person looking at you as a hypocrite, even though you know that it's okay. You don't want that person speaking against you and looking at you as a hypocrite, and you destroying that person's faith. Man, I knew this guy was a hypocrite. Man, that Bible stuff ain't real. So you don't want to send that message, so you don't eat it in front of them. And it says, and for conscience sake. Okay, so let me go back. So it says, eat not for his sake that shewed it to you. Yeah, so eat not for his sake, for the sake of the person that who told you, look, this is sacrifice to the idols. So for his sake, just don't eat it. And for conscience sake, for the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. Conscience, I say, not thine own, but of the other. For why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? So it says, conscience sake, I say, not thine own, but for the other. So you got to think about the other person's conscience. Now it says, why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? Right, so why is my liberty? Yeah, you got the freedom to do so. You do got the freedom to eat the food. It's not sinning, but is not necessary to do so in front of that person who don't fully understand. All right? So why is my liberty judged of another man's conscience? For if I by grace be a partaker, why am I evil spoken of for that which I give thanks? Yeah, so why are you evil? You people speaking evil of you for eating the food and you're not sinning. But still, you're giving off mixed messages. All right? You're giving off mixed messages. And you can take somebody's faith away by doing so in front of them. So it's just best not to do it. Whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do all to the glory of the Most High. Yeah, we do everything to the glory of the Most High, okay? Even when it comes to these foods. Give none offense, neither to the Jews, nor to the Gentiles, nor to the church of God, even as I please all men in all things, not seeking my own profit, but the profit of many, that they might be saved. Right? So Paul is saying, look, Paul is saying, look, you gotta pretty much be your brother's keeper. You have to do things for the edification of the church. You have to deal with people on a level that their level of understanding, even though you have a greater level of understanding of things, you don't do certain things around certain people. That's it. All right. Now, certain things is okay to do, you can do it, by yourself or when certain people are not around. All right. You want to sacrifice doing certain things in front of people that can, especially if if it could destroy their faith. All right. So in this topic of eating meat sacrificed to idols, yes, it is okay to eat meat sacrificed to idols because we understand that idols are nothing. They're false gods, and all the food belongs to the Most High. So we can eat it, but it's not necessary to do so in front of certain people that are weak in the faith and don't have that understanding. Okay? And that's plain and simple. So this is the message that Paul was conveying. All right? So with that, hope brothers understood. I hope brothers got understanding. And I'm gonna say all praises due to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Double honors to the apostles of GMS, and shalom to the elect. Shalom.